We're counting down the 10 black mathematicians who solved the impossible, yet were erased from history or denied the credit they deserved. From self-taught geniuses in the 1700s to innovators whose discoveries power technology billions use today, each spot in this ranking reveals a new layer of brilliance, resilience, and overlooked impact. Which unsung pioneer claimed the top spot? Let's begin, starting with number 10. Benjamin Banneker was born free in Maryland in 1731, the grandson of enslaved Africans. With little formal education, he taught himself mathematics and astronomy, relying on borrowed books and his own curiosity. At age 22, Banneker built a strikingly accurate wooden clock, the first of its kind in the American colonies. In 1789, he stunned local experts by calculating the exact date and time of a solar eclipse, contradicting published almanacs. His own almanac soon followed, filled with tables of tides, planetary motions, and weather predictions, widely circulated from Pennsylvania to Virginia. Banneker's correspondence with Thomas Jefferson challenged the nation's founders to recognize black intellectual achievement. Yet newspapers of his era downplayed his work, and later histories often credited his inventions to others or omitted him entirely. Banneker's legacy stands as proof of brilliance denied its rightful place at the dawn of American science. Charles Lewis Reason was born in New York City in 1818, at a time when most universities barred black students and teachers outright. Yet by age 14, Reason was already teaching mathematics at the African Free School, impressing both students and white reformers with his skill. In 1849, he broke new ground as the first African American appointed to teach mathematics at a predominantly white college, New York Central College. His lectures went beyond numbers, weaving in calls for racial equality and the value of rigorous education for all. Reason published essays and textbooks arguing that mathematics could be a tool for liberation. He campaigned for integrated schools and fought discriminatory policies through public advocacy and private correspondence. Decades later, his name faded from textbooks, and credit for early integration in mathematics education was lost to time. Still, the records of his appointment and his writings remain, proof of a legacy that shaped the fight for equal opportunity in American classrooms. Kelly Miller's journey began in Reconstruction-era South Carolina, where access to education for black children was still fiercely contested. By 1887, he became one of the first African Americans to study advanced mathematics at Johns Hopkins University, breaking through barriers that kept most black scholars far from the field. Miller's mathematical training shaped his life's work, but his influence reached far beyond equations. At Howard University, he overhauled the mathematics department, designing new curricula that demanded rigor and critical thinking. Miller believed that mathematical literacy was not just a technical skill, but a path to social progress and citizenship. Through essays and public lectures, he argued that the intellectual discipline of mathematics could empower Black Americans to challenge injustice and claim their place in a modern democracy. His writings on education policy were widely read in the early 20th century, yet later histories often reduced him to a sociologist or administrator, erasing his mathematical foundation. The records of his curricular reforms and published essays remain, a testament to how his vision of mathematics as a tool for liberation shaped national debates, even as his role as a mathematician faded from collective memory. In 1925, Elbert Frank Cox walked across the stage at Cornell University and became the first Black American to earn a PhD in mathematics. The achievement sent ripples through academic circles, but the doors it opened were narrower than they appeared. When Cox submitted his doctoral dissertation, major American journals refused to publish his work, citing vague standards while accepting lesser papers from white contemporaries. Undeterred, Cox reached out to mathematicians in Japan who recognized the depth of his research and published his findings in Tohoku Mathematical Journal. For decades, his name rarely appeared in citation lists or textbooks, even as he taught and mentored generations of Black mathematicians at West Virginia State College and Howard University. He spent nearly 40 years in the classroom, guiding students who would themselves break barriers. Not until years after his death did the mathematical community formally honor his legacy, with scholarships and lectureships bearing his name. Cox's story stands as a reminder that even the highest credentials could not shield black scholars from the silent barriers of editorial bias. Dudley Weldon Woodard earned his doctorate in mathematics from the University of Pennsylvania in 1928, becoming only the second black American to reach that level in the field. But Woodard's true legacy lives on, not just in research, but in the structures he built for others. At Howard University, he designed and launched the nation's first graduate mathematics program at a historically black college. This program became a rare beacon, offering advanced training to black students who were denied entry at most other universities. Woodard's vision extended to building a mathematics library and recruiting faculty who would later mentor generations of scholars. His research in topology appeared in respected journals like Fundamenta Mathematicae and Transactions of the American Mathematical Society, breaking new ground in analysis situs. Yet national histories of mathematics often left his name out, focusing on more recognized institutions and overlooking the quiet revolution happening at Howard. The records of student theses and departmental reports show how Woodard's program produced a wave of black mathematicians, some of whom would themselves become pioneers. His work turned Howard into a center for black mathematical talent, multiplying opportunities at a time when such doors were closed almost everywhere else. Even as textbooks and mainstream histories skipped over his achievements, the foundations he laid continued to shape black mathematics for decades to come. Marjorie Lee Brown earned her doctorate in mathematics from the University of Michigan in 1949, becoming one of the first black women in the United States to reach that level in the field. At North Carolina Central University, she transformed the mathematics department, introducing topics like abstract algebra and topology to undergraduates long before such courses became standard across American colleges. Her syllabi challenged students to think beyond rote calculation, encouraging them to explore the deeper structures that shape modern mathematics. Brown's commitment to her students reached far beyond the classroom. She secured grants to buy advanced textbooks and even early computers, giving students access to resources rarely available at historically black colleges. Through her efforts, dozens of young mathematicians, many of them women, found both mentorship and opportunity in a field that had little room for either. Brown quietly funded scholarships out of her own pocket and built networks that helped her students continue their studies at top graduate programs. Yet, even as her courses and graduates reshaped math education across the South, Brown's name faded from textbooks and professional histories. The innovations she brought to curriculum design were often credited to later, more visible figures. As a black woman, she faced not only the barriers of race, but also the persistent doubts of a field dominated by men. Still, the records of her syllabi, the careers of her students, and the stories passed down in HBCU mathematics departments reveal a legacy of resilience, vision, and generosity that changed mathematics education for generations. Euphemia Lofton Haynes earned her doctorate in mathematics from Catholic University in 1943, becoming the first black woman in the United States to achieve this distinction. Her credentials did not stay locked in academia. For decades, she taught mathematics in Washington, D.C. public schools, insisting that every child, regardless of race or background, deserved access to rigorous math education. By the early 1960s, Haynes was not just teaching, she was rewriting the rules. As chair of the D.C. School Board, she led the charge to dismantle the city's tracking system, a policy that sorted students by perceived ability and often consigned black children to watered-down courses. Board meeting minutes and her public testimony show Haynes confronting officials and exposing how these policies deepened segregation long after the Supreme Court's decision in Bowling versus Sharp. She pressed for curriculum reforms that would open doors to advanced math, arguing that true equality could not exist without equal opportunity in the classroom. When the district finally ended tracking in 1967, it was Haynes's persistence that forced the issue onto the public agenda. Yet newspaper coverage and later histories rarely credited her mathematical expertise or leadership in this victory. Her name faded from official accounts, but the records of her doctoral work, board service, and legal advocacy remain. Haynes's legacy lives on in the generations of students who gained access to the mathematics that once seemed out of reach. J. Ernest Wilkins Jr. entered the University of Chicago at just 13, outpacing even the most ambitious students of his time. By his early 20s, he was already working on some of the most closely guarded scientific problems of the 20th century. Inside the labs of the Manhattan Project, Wilkins tackled the mathematics of nuclear reactions, developing models that would determine how neutrons move and are absorbed inside a reactor. His calculations, now known as the Wilkins effect, became essential for predicting whether a nuclear chain reaction would fizzle or spiral out of control. These equations, buried for years in classified project memos and technical reports, shaped the very foundation of reactor physics. Wilkins' work didn't stop when the war ended. He filed patents on nuclear shielding and reactor designs, each one a technical leap forward. But the world outside those locked doors rarely heard his name. Security clearances and institutional bias kept his achievements in the shadows, while public accolades went to more visible figures. Even as he published over 100 scientific papers and served as president of the American Nuclear Society, Wilkins remained largely invisible to the broader public. The evidence of his genius lives in the technical literature, co-authored reports with Eugene Wigner, mathematical models referenced by generations of engineers, and patents that quietly powered the atomic age. Wilkins solved problems that others thought impossible. Yet his story stands as a reminder of how easily brilliance can be hidden by secrecy and prejudice. David Harold Blackwell's mathematical journey began with pure theory, but its echoes are everywhere in modern science. In 1947, Blackwell and Indian statistician C.R. Rao introduced the Rao-Blackwell theorem, a breakthrough that changed how mathematicians, economists, and engineers approached uncertainty. The theorem offered a simple promise: if you start with a rough statistical estimate, there's a precise way to make it better every single time. This idea, deceptively elegant, became a cornerstone of modern statistics, shaping fields from artificial intelligence to economic forecasting. Blackwell's work didn't stop at elegant proofs. He pushed into decision theory, exploring how to make the best possible choices when faced with incomplete information. His 1954 book, Theory of Games and Statistical Decisions, became a foundational text, influencing the development of game theory and shaping the mathematics behind everything from insurance risk to computer algorithms. Yet for years, the mathematical establishment kept its doors closed. Blackwell's early applications for faculty positions at leading universities were quietly set aside, despite his growing reputation overseas. Only in 1954 did he break through, becoming the first black tenured faculty member at the University of California, Berkeley's mathematics department. Recognition came slowly. Despite the widespread use of his ideas, Blackwell's name rarely appeared in textbooks outside specialist circles. His election to the National Academy of Sciences in 1965 was a milestone, but it arrived nearly 2 decades after the Rao-Blackwell theorem had begun reshaping entire disciplines. Citation records show his work rippling through economics, engineering, and artificial intelligence, yet mainstream histories often left him in the margins. Blackwell's resilience in the face of exclusion did not blunt his curiosity or generosity. He mentored dozens of mathematicians, many of whom would carry his influence into new areas of research. The mathematical world eventually caught up, but the delay speaks volumes about who is seen and who is left in the footnotes, even when their ideas quietly power the world. Gladys West grew up on a small farm in rural Virginia, where the rhythms of planting and harvest shaped her childhood. By the late 1950s, she had earned a mathematics degree and a place at the U.S. Naval Proving Ground in Dahlgren, a rare achievement for a black woman in a field and workplace dominated by white men. There, West confronted a challenge that stumped even the most seasoned scientists: how to map the true shape of the Earth with enough precision to guide satellites, missiles, and, eventually, every smartphone on the planet. For centuries, navigators relied on rough estimates, a globe flattened at the poles, stretched at the equator, But the real Earth is uneven, pulled and pushed by mountains, ocean trenches, shifting tectonic plates, and the invisible tug of gravity. Early attempts to model this surface left errors stretching over kilometers, enough to send ships off course or scramble missile guidance. West and her colleagues were tasked with something that seemed out of reach: build a mathematical model so accurate that it could reliably anchor the new era of satellite navigation. West dove into the raw data pouring in from satellites like GeoSat and CSat. Each orbit brought millions of measurements: the distance from satellite to sea surface, the rise and fall of tides, the tiny wobbles caused by gravity. She wrote algorithms, sometimes by hand, sometimes on punch cards, designed to wring meaning from this chaos. Using the IBM 7030 Stretch, one of the earliest supercomputers, West's code processed tidal cycles, atmospheric drag, and gravitational anomalies, calculating the Earth's geoid to a level of detail never before achieved. Her models transformed scattered satellite readings into a global height map, correcting for deviations that could throw off positioning by tens or hundreds of meters. The impact rippled far beyond the military. As the global positioning system moved from classified project to everyday tool, West's geoid calculations became the silent backbone of modern navigation. Her work shrank GPS errors from the scale of city blocks to single steps, making it possible for pilots to land in fog, for farmers to guide tractors with centimeter precision, for ambulances to reach the right address without hesitation. Every time a phone pinpoints a location or a ship charts a course across the sea, it relies on the math West pioneered. For decades, her name appeared only in technical reports and internal memos. Colleagues won awards and promotions, while West's contribution stayed buried in the code and tables that powered global navigation. Not until 2018 did the Air Force Space and Missile Pioneers Hall of Fame formally recognize her role decades after her retirement. By then, billions of people depended on the accuracy of GPS, unaware that a mathematician from rural Virginia had solved a problem once thought impossible. Gladys West's legacy is not just in the numbers, but in the everyday miracles of modern life. Flights that land safely, maps that never get lost, lives saved by precision that was once out of reach. Her story is proof that the world's most powerful technologies can rest on the quiet, persistent work of a mind determined to make sense of the world, even when credit is slow to arrive. From Benjamin Banneker's 18th century calculations to Gladys West's game-changing work on GPS, this countdown revealed 10 black mathematicians whose brilliance shaped science, technology, and education, yet who were repeatedly denied the credit they deserved. The most shocking entries, like J. Ernest Wilkins Jr.'s nuclear breakthroughs hidden by secrecy, or David Blackwell's Rao-Blackwell theorem impacting statistics worldwide, show that erasure often struck at the highest levels of achievement. Across all 10 entries, a clear pattern emerges. Systemic barriers, editorial bias, and historical neglect consistently overshadowed transformative work, regardless of the era or the magnitude of the discovery. What united these mathematicians wasn't just their intellect, but their resilience, building institutions, modernizing curricula, and developing the math behind tools billions rely on today. The ranking prioritized measurable, world-changing impact alongside the depth of erasure. Ultimately, this list proves that black mathematical genius has always been here, solving the impossible and advancing humanity, even when history tried to look the other way. Recognizing these stories isn't just overdue, it's essential to understanding the true story of mathematics.